Okay folks, in today's lesson we're going to be talking about factoring simple trinomials, except with some more complex problems. Once you're comfortable with straight up factoring, you can move on to this lesson. Let's look at our first question here, when you have more than one variable in the question. I need to factor x squared minus 3xy minus 10y squared. When you're dealing with these types of problems, I want you just to ignore the y's to begin with. We're going to start off making our x, and we're going to look at the same numbers as before. It needs to add to -3 and multiply to -10. In this case, we're looking at -5 and +2. Let's use the decomposition method in order to split this up for us. This problem becomes x squared minus 5xy, because remember we're splitting up the middle term, plus 2xy minus 10y squared. We group factor the first two terms. I can pull out an x. That leaves me with x minus 5y. And here I can pull out a 2y. That leaves me with x, and then once again minus 5y. Once again, common factor, leaving me with x minus 5y, x plus 2y. Notice how our solution, x minus 5y, x plus 2y, the -5 and the +2 are once again the same numbers that we just came up with. Except this time around, we added the y at the end. The reason that we had to add the y is because we knew we had a y squared in our last term, and we had a 3xy in the middle, so we knew y had to be involved, and that's where y is going to stick in our final answer. So if you're accustomed to jumping straight to the conclusion, let's do it with our next question here. X squared plus 11xy minus 12y squared. I start off with my x, multiply and add. I need to multiply this time to -12, and I need to add to +11. What's going to get me there? 12 and -1. Let's jump straight to our final conclusion. I'm going to have an x at the beginning part of my brackets. There has to be a y somewhere. It's going to be the second half of our bracket. Now all I need to do is use my middle numbers here as the coefficients for my y. X plus 12y, x minus y. We're not going to write the -1 because -1 is it doesn't matter as a coefficient, so we're just going to write -y. If you want, we can just double check and expand to make sure that this is the right answer. X times x is x squared. X times -y is -xy. 12y times x is 12xy. 12y times -y is -12y squared. Combine our like terms in the middle. I am given x squared plus 11xy minus 12y squared, and you can see that we have landed at the exact same problem. So if you're comfortable jumping right to the answer based on the information that you have, absolutely you can. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to decompose it as we did up here, especially once there are more and more variables, as it can be a little bit more challenging. Another type of problem that you could be dealing with is an area problem. Determine the binomial expressions that represent the dimensions of the following rectangle where area is equal to x squared plus 5x minus 14. Okay, let's consider here that when you need to find area, remember that area is equal to length times width. So we need to have two expressions that multiplied by each other to give us our area formula. Well, this looks exactly like the solution to a factored problem, so we can just go ahead and factor this. I'm going to draw my x over here. we need them to multiply to something and add to something. In this case, they need to multiply to negative 14 and add to 5. Our two numbers in this case are to be 7 and negative 2. So the factored form of my expression here is going to be x plus 7, x minus 2. So I can see the length, just to add it to our diagram, is x plus 7, and the width is x minus 2. Because this is a word problem, I'm going to finish off with a therefore statement. Therefore, the dimensions of the rectangle are x minus 2, x plus 7. Other types of problems that could be a little bit more challenging look like these, where if you're trying, for example, A doesn't have, or A has a coefficient in front of it. We don't know how to deal with that yet. Or for example, you don't really know what's happening. You always need to think common factor first. C, F, F, common factor first. Always, 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 you are looking for a common factor. Common factoring is the easiest form of factoring, and it's going to simplify your problems for you. Even once you learn how to deal with trinomials that have a coefficient besides your variable, even then it's going to simplify your life if you recognize that you can common factor first. Let's deal with our first problem here. It's pretty obvious that I can common factor out a 2 from all terms, so I'm going to do that. That leaves me with 2x squared plus 6x plus 8. We are left with a simple trinomial in the middle, so that's what we need to factor out now. I'm going to put my x over to the side here. I multiply to 8, and I need to add to 6. The two numbers that get me there are 2 and 4. So I can factor my simple trinomial in the middle here as x plus 2, x plus 4, and I have the 2 that I had factored out originally that I need to continue with me in my solution. So the factored form here of my initial expression is 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 4. Let's do a second example over here. Negative 3y squared plus 9y minus 6. Remember, the goal is to land with nothing beside the y squared, not even a negative sign. So in this case, I need to factor out negative 3. That leaves me with y squared minus 3y, because 9 divided by negative 3 is negative 3. And then negative 6 divided by negative 3 is positive 2. I then need to common factor, or I need to factor y squared minus 3y plus 2. I'm going to put my x down here, multiply and add. I need to multiply to 2 and add to negative 3. The two numbers that are going to get me there are negative 2 and negative 1. So I can factor my simple trinomial in the middle here as being y minus 2, y minus 1, all with the negative 3 up front that we had common factored. And that's that. So remember, when dealing with difficult problems, always ask yourself, can I common factor first? It'll make things a lot simpler for you.